Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Dan Cordelicchio. I want to welcome you to another segment of Destination Health podcast, Finding Function in a Dysfunctional World. I am really excited about today's conversation. We always say we have the best of the best of the best, but this time it just takes the cake. I knew you were going to laugh at that. This time it just takes the cake, and we don't eat cake unless it's gluten-free. Want to welcome onto the program Samantha Harris. Samantha, thank you so much for coming on. How are you today?
I am doing great.
That's awesome.
I am great.
It is an honor and a privilege to have you on. So if you've been underneath the rock for the last 10 to 20 years, Samantha, 4-time Emmy Award-winning nominee, Dancing with the Stars, Entertainment Tonight. She's co-hosted what? The Oscars, the Emmys, Golden Globes, everything, right? Age 40, this wife and mom had a shocking diagnosis, breast cancer. That's why she's here today. Rising from that challenge, she became a breast cancer thriver. And you know, all my listeners know we've had a lot of breast cancer thrivers on here. Certified health coach, author of the best-selling book, Your Healthiest Healthy, health expert. She's been on the Doctors, Headline News, Morning Express, everything. She has a community, Your Healthiest Healthy, ambassador, national ambassador for Susan G. Komen. This is exciting. So, I mean, you're living your best life, Samantha, and then you get this diagnosis. Let's start from there. What happened? What's going on?
You know, it was such a blindsiding moment, Dan, because here I was, the picture of health, at least that's what we thought. I was on the cover of all these magazines, all these fitness and health magazines. And, being on a show like Dancing with the Stars, I'm standing next to these women with incredible bodies and physique. So I'm, working my butt off to make sure I can also be as cut up and be all rocking like they are.
You're keeping up with the Joneses at that point, right?
I was, exactly. We even had a Kardashian on the show. So no, keeping up with the Kardashians. No, really keeping up with things and juggling. And that was the thing. I was living what was the dream of the 12-year-old girl in Minnesota who just really wanted to make it in Hollywood, right, to interning at Entertainment Tonight when I was in college at Northwestern University, to then being on Entertainment Tonight, filling in the chair for Mary Hart, weekend anchor. All of these great, exciting things were happening. And every opportunity that came at me, it was sort of hard to say no, because this is what I'd worked so hard to achieve, right? So while I was on Dancing with the Stars, I always did double duty hosting an entertainment news show full-time at the same time. On hiatus from Dancing with the Stars, while hosting a full-time entertainment news show, I took on a Broadway gig with a 21-month-old and was a dream come true. Good Morning America called, so I was also adding correspondent to that. Red carpet calls for hosting the Oscar pre-show with Regis? Sure. And I'm not saying that I'm upset that I did any of that. It was amazing. I got some incredible opportunities, but I was going a million miles a minute without understanding the importance of mitigating health risk. I was eating what I thought was healthy. I was exercising like a maniac, and so wasn't that healthy. And then this blindsiding breast cancer diagnosis at 40. So here's what that looked like. I was happily going along my lovely life and career and family life, and thought, I'm about to turn 40. My dad died of colon cancer when he was just 50. His mom was a breast cancer survivor, lived to 95. I should probably set a baseline, get a mammogram, and I did. Results came back clear, of course, because I was so healthy. And then 11 days later, Dan, I was changing after a workout 11 days later, and I found a lump. And I thought, well, that's weird, but I'll go ahead and see my OBGYN. She did a clinical exam, said it was nothing, sent me on my way. A month later, lump's still there. I'm going to get a second opinion. But again, not cancer, had a clear mammogram, went to see my internist. Same thing, quick clinical exam, felt around, said the lump was nothing, sent me on my way. And it was really this nagging in my gut that just kept saying, well, wait a second. I don't get it. How can they feel it and know it's nothing? So when 4 months later, that lump was still there, I finally went to see someone who looks at breasts every day, not realizing the only type of doctor who does that is an oncologist. And we did two ultrasounds, a needle biopsy, an MRI, and not one test detected the cancer. And that's what's so crazy to me. But the needle biopsy turned up some irregular cells. And
Hmm.
so they thought, it's not cancer. It's a good news. Bad news is I don't know what it is, says the doctor. Let's take it out. So I do. And when I went for the final pathology, that's when we found out not only was it ductal carcinoma in situ contained within the duct, but also some had broken out and it was invasive breast cancer. Stage 2 had gone to a lymph node, which we found out after my mastectomy. And it was a 3 surgery year in 2014. And actually, just yesterday celebrated 8 years cancer free. So
Congratulations. That is awesome. That
thank
is
you.
an awesome feat to be cancer free. And I mean, there's so many questions now that just by that introduction, there's so many questions. I mean, I think the first thing is you have to take your health into your own hands. I think that's important. And we were talking a little bit about that before we came on. You felt as if there was something not right. You felt as there was something wrong, and you decided to, investigate. And that's important, don't you think? Especially, I mean, if you have a lump in your breast, you got a lump in your testicle. I mean, these are fast growing types of cancers, right? You have to take your health into your own hands. Is that the way you felt back then?
It's really accurate, Dan, because what I have come to learn through my cancer journey and from pivoting the trajectory of my entire career from successful television host to cancer thriver to now certified health coach, and that's what I am doing 100% of the time, is really always researching, investigating, working with private clients, working with my Your Healthiest Healthy community members to
Mhm.
be able to empower us as consumers, as healthcare patients,
Right.
to know our own bodies
Right.
and do what we can best to mitigate risk of disease, to mitigate what's going on. And here's what led me down that path, really. And I don't think that the cancer itself would have necessarily. I think the real pivot was I had no genetic link. Again, dad had cancer, his mom had cancer, must be that.
Mhm.
Well, only 5 to 10% of breast cancers are
That's right.
hereditary. And really even the majority of all cancers, I think it's a range of between 10 and 30% of those of any cancer are even genetic.
Mhm.
So it set the journalist in me
Sure.
in what is going on?
You had to investigate this, Samantha, right?
100%. 100%. 1 in 8 women get breast cancer. Why? If it's only 5 to 10% of that is genetic. So when I started to read and research, I learned what so many in the mindshare community already know and are living and breathing, which is it's what we're putting in, on, and around our bodies that affect our overall well-being, that turn
Right.
on or off the dormant cancer genes or the DNA codes, the epigenetics of it all. These were all foreign thoughts to me. I thought, okay, I need to eat as much animal meat as possible so I can get as cut as possible and look awesome in a dress and look
Mhm.
muscular next to those dancers. That's what matters. No. I didn't realize the carcinogens, the neurotoxins, the endocrine disruptors in our foods, in my makeup. I was sitting in a makeup chair for my career being shellacked with chemical bombs, not realizing what they were doing to my health and overall well-being. So we have to be our best health advocates, and we have to know our own bodies.
What you are saying is what I do daily in my office, because potential patients come in to me all the time. They say to me, listen, you know what? I eat a great diet. This is the best diet, but you don't know if it's the best diet, because if you're not eating, for example, grass-fed beef, you're eating grain-fed beef, that could be a problem. If you're not eating wild caught salmon, or, if you're eating farm raised, it's not the best. And you know what? This is important for all of the listeners. You know, you're in showbiz, so you're putting the makeup on, you have to look a certain way, you're next to these dancers, you're on the red carpet, all of those endocrine disruptors. I mean, you're talking my language, that are in these particular cosmetics just aren't good for you, and they create so many problems. Now, what did you do to change your life? What did you do to pivot away from all of that stuff?
Well, it was overwhelming, as you can imagine.
Sure.
And it was really about small, manageable steps. So for me, for personal care, my gateway was actually deodorant. And that was eye-opening. I had a lot of cancer survivors say, well, you're not using aluminum in your deodorant anymore, are you? And then I go to my oncologist and I say, is aluminum in my deodorant dangerous? And he says, nah. Is sugar feeding cancer? Nah, because they're not trained in this same way, by the way, thank goodness for my oncology team. They
100%.
and I'm grateful. And I'm grateful for Western medicine, and I use it. I'm currently on an antibiotic, and I'm currently on a drug for cancer. So, I'm grateful for these things. However, there's so much more we can do. So I thought, okay, well, here's the deal. Even though some of the science is even still to this day conflicting on aluminum and whether that can cause cancer within the breast tissue, we know we need to sweat. We need to get those toxins out. Well, if the aluminum, which is the sweat stopper, is keeping us from sweating, well, that's probably not that great for us. So I now, and by the way, I don't like lightly perspire like a little lady. No, I like flood. It's like turn on the faucets, gush. It's gross.
Okay, so everybody today, Samantha Harris is admitting faucets come on when she's exercising. It doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I don't come out of the gym with a glow. I come out looking like a drowned rat. I'm so happy because I feel amazing, and that's the biggest shift I think also that has happened. That mind shift of perspective, right? So, by the way, I don't stink. However, the process of getting the right deodorant when you're taking the aluminum and all the big brands out of your arsenal, it takes a little while because your body's detoxing. So I remember putting on one brand and I was like, God, what man stinks around me? Oh my God, it's me. So it took a little while for that to happen. Now I have great deodorants that work well for me, but it took a couple of months to figure out what works.
You know what? It is a journey. You need to figure out what works for you. You need to figure out what you should be doing. Listening, plastic water in the bottle. It's simple and it's in the car, it's heating, there's chemical reactions that are coming out, phthalates and all of that. Another major endocrine disruptor. Whenever I'm drinking water, it's in a glass, and I'll have my 120 ounces per day and it helps flush. You mentioned detoxification. That's important because if your detoxification system is overwhelmed, that's when you start getting poor health, correct?
100%. The inflammation starts.
We
have so much toxicity in our lives, and depending on where you live. Look, I'm in LA, so clearly between the smog and everything, there's pollutants in our water, there's pollutants in our food and on our soil, and not to mention the beauty products and personal care products we're putting on our largest organ every day is our skin. So when we can start to find in small steps. So again, first it was deodorant. Okay, now I moved to my makeup. Well, gosh, we ladies spend a lot of time and money on our makeup investments. So I started with foundation because it was covering the most amount of my skin. And then just started and it's trial and error, right? You can't just throw everything out. Same thing with your foods. You're not going to go into your pantry and just toss everything. But I sort of said, all right, I'm going to make a pledge to myself. I'm going to use up what I have because I've already gone this many years with it. Another month or so is not going to make much difference. I'm going to change up what I can afford to change up right now, but I'll use up the whatever else is there. And I'm going to pledge not to buy that again, whether it was the cleaning supply or the lotion or whatever it was. And the same thing with foods, started with, okay, let's see. I know what the environmental working group shows is the dirty dozen for the most pesticide heavy veggies and fruits. So I'll start spending my money with the dirty dozen, and I'll make sure that all my berries and my lettuce and my apples and my tomatoes have no pesticides, and I'll spend my, save some money on the conventional. And then slowly, okay, well, I'll buy more frozen because that's, I'm making smoothies every day now. So there you go. You save money that way.
And frozen is equally as nutritious as getting the organic. As long as it's organic, it's good.
Yes, it's not better even because I know sometimes you'll buy the organic and then it's been sitting in the store for longer than its peak season, and then it sits in your fridge for another 3 days versus being picked and frozen at peak.
Always talking about the dirty dozen, always talking about the clean 15. Extremely important. I grew up in northern New Jersey. I grew up in a city called Newark, and we were right near a chemical company that made Agent Orange. And we were exposed to all of this type of stuff, when we were growing up. And your detoxifications, your liver, your kidney, they become overtaxed. And then you get that, like you said, that inflammation, and it starts right there. What else did you do? So you changed your diet, you changed some, you made these small demonstrable habits, you made some positive lifestyle changes, because the genes hold the gun. The lifestyle pulls that trigger when it comes to these things, right?
It does.
What else did you do to help yourself out?
Well, definitely diet was a huge part of it. Not just going to pesticide-free fruits and veggies and buying organic. We switched off of dairy milk and transitioned to nut milk. We still look. I have an 11-year-old and a 14-year-old, so it is. As much as I'd love to believe whatever I put in front of them or that's in the house is what they're going to eat, but there's a lot of complaining and there's a lot, right? So there's some give and take, of course.
When it comes to teenagers, I have a 14-year-old, Samantha, and when it comes to the teenager, he plays hockey at a pretty high level, and he's got to be in shape. He's got to perform. He's got to fuel his body. Oh boy, sometimes I look at him and I say, "What are you doing? What are you eating now?" Right? It happens all the time.
Oh, and I think too, for those of us who know more than sometimes we once did, especially growing up when we were eating Twinkies and McDonald's every day, or maybe that was just me. Okay. Yeah, right. I grew up in Minnesota, like land of cow, tongue to tail, and then the DQ, the Burger King, the McDonald's, the Pizza Hut. It was
all of it. All of it.
But so now when I see my kids wanting to eat that junk, and actually they've never had, I am proud to say, they have never had McDonald's or Burger King or Chick-fil-A. I think my husband did take them to an In-N-Out, but not on my watch. So there you go. There
was a discussion or two after that when you came home, like, honey, I love you, but what are you doing? It's just not what you should be doing.
Exactly. And look, again, the kids, it's hard. It's a lot harder for the kids. We know, especially after having a health scare, we know that there are changes that need to be made. So I think another big change, besides minimizing my animal protein consumption, and increasing my healthy fats. I used to not eat nuts, seeds, avocados, because, well, I grew up where fat was the villain and I was afraid of it. So I ate lots of sugar and got cancer. So that all changed. Learning how to deal with stress.
That's where I was going next. Yeah.
Something I definitely did not know how to deal with at all. I think also being older is a little bit easier, being able to take a step back and sort of not sweat the small things as much. When I was coming up in LA and the entertainment news biz, I had an executive producer who would scream from one end of the newsroom to the other at you with F-bombs and so hard. And I was in tears so often because of the stress of that job. And now, if I were to go back, actually, I have gone back to work for that person, and I now have a completely different perspective on it. But then when you're trying so hard, when you want, it's hard to put the brake on. But now I understand mitigating stress, breath work, mindfulness. I mean, literally, I was on my first walk after COVID today, out and about, and I saw this gorgeous collection of roses in someone's yard. And I literally stopped to smell the roses. Where I think maybe before I would have gone, oh, those are pretty, and kept walking.
Right. You're not even looking.
Got to get home. Got to get back to my stuff. I got to get my power walk in.
So you had a lot of stress. You were in a high stress job. You had to perform, because if you don't perform, I mean, we all have to perform in our jobs, but especially if you're on camera all the time, because once those ratings stop dropping, I mean, then they start looking at you and they say, hey, listen, what are we doing here? So for you had a lot of stress that you had to just deal with all the time. Coming from Minnesota, maybe not dealing with that all the time, going to the big city. Next thing you know you've got tons of stress. Doing gratitude, I think, is important, right? Do you do any gratitude? Do you do any journaling when it comes to that?
So it's interesting because I talk a lot about gratitude journals, and in terms of practice, I've sort of ebb and flow when I keep one or not. I have one on my bedside, and sometimes I'm really consistent, but other days I'm not so consistent about writing. However, I do try to, when I first open my eyes in the morning, think about those things that I'm grateful for. Whether it's starting with the body and just feeling the beating of the heart and taking a moment to tune in, and then starting to sort of that macro and then going to micro, or vice versa, because that's also a great way to start your day and shift your perspective. So now, because the more you start to write in the journal, even if you don't continue with the writing, I find it really beneficial because you've now trained your brain to the practice of gratitude. So now I'm looking for things to be grateful for. I'll be on a bike ride and I'll see, a mom with a stroller and the baby's smiling at the sky, at the bird, and finding gratitude and just seeing the happy baby's face, right? So little things like that, seeing a blue jay fly by and the beauty of the bird, and that sort of retraining the brain to appreciate and find the gratitude in life's big and little things makes a big difference.
Yes, it sure does. Because that leads me into my next question. What was going through your mind, your thoughts when you had that diagnosis? You're on top of the world, and now it's just kind of like falling apart, if you will. What were your thoughts back then? I
was riddled with such anxiety and devastation that I had never felt, except for when my dad was diagnosed and when we lost him. It was probably the only other time in my life that I had those feelings of desperation, and the stress itself, the anxiety really is what it was, physically coursed through my body. I could feel the vibration in my veins and this heaviness, elephant, if you will, on my chest. And I realized after about 3 weeks of feeling that way, where it stole my happiness, it stole my happy-go-lucky attitude, my positive spirit. And I got angry at cancer. I said, you can't do that. You can't take away who I am at my core, because that's me. And I don't know how long this journey is going to be. So I need to know that this isn't going to be how I feel every step of the way going through the cancer journey. And so at that moment, and I don't know what powerful force came into my being to make me on my own say, I'm switching my perspective. I'm going to take everything else that comes at me with a positive twist. How can I find the good in this? Right. And when you have a cancer diagnosis, you think, oh my God, what's good in cancer? But then that's when I started to develop these tools that have continued to help me through earthquake scare, through the COVID pandemic when it first hit and we were going to have to stay in our homes we didn't know what the foreseeable future was going to be with it. Right. And stress set in. So number one is positive self-talk. So I started talking to myself. Hey, Samantha, you got cancer. What's good? Okay, well, I'm going to dig deep here. I'm in otherwise really good shape. So that's going to make go ahead. What?
No, I'm saying you're just turning it around. You're looking at it now from a different perspective, so that you can move forward and help yourself out.
Yes, because I was paralyzed in where I was. I was riddled with such fear, and especially having lost my dad. I think because of that experience, it having a 3 and 6 year old, that made me even more worried. I want to leave my husband and my kids behind, and so I was so riddled with fear and paralyzed that the only explanation to how I could come out of that was to flip my point of view. So when I started the positive self-talk, what I found is that it then led very quickly in a wonderful ripple effect to other positive self-talk points. So I'm in great health otherwise, that'll reduce risk of complications. Surgery will help me bounce back faster. Okay, good. Keep talking to me. What else? Okay, well, what else is good? I have great insurance. I have a great support staff. So all of that really made a big difference. Right. And then I also realized that we can only control what we can control. And that became another really great tool for me for anxiety or stress. Here I have cancer. I now, at this point, can't control that I have cancer because the diagnosis is here, but what can I do? Well, I can control my attitude towards it. So that positive self-talk, positive attitude. I can also, once I get through these surgeries, I can start to mitigate my risk of recurrence and future cancers and type 2 diabetes and heart disease and all of those through lifestyle changes. That's what I can control. So that made a big difference. And then as things would come up, maybe there was the time that I was peeing blood and thought, I have bladder cancer. What the heck?
Right.
And thank goodness it was a UTI or something, but I'd never had that before. So I didn't know what I was looking for. But in the moment of panic,
Sure.
Another great tool was worry when you have to worry. Rather than me freaking out in the moment, I took a breath after freaking out for a second. I took a breath and I said, okay, I'm going to take control of what I can control. I can call my doctor. I can get it tested. I can see what's going on. Because there's going to be plenty of time to worry if, God forbid, there's another diagnosis.
Right.
So I put the worry aside, and that also. So control what you can control, worry when you have to worry, positive self-talk. And the last big part of it for me, at tools that have really helped a lot of other people as well, is breath work. Those deep diaphragmatic breaths, slowing your breathing and taking control of your breath.
Right. That stimulates your parasympathetic system, your nervous system. And what that does, it just brings everything down, brings it to a calmer state. You can make better decisions when you're in a calmer state. You can think more clearly. You're in a better state of health than you are in the sympathetic, where that prefrontal cortex is just knocked out. You can't even think straight. You can't do anything in order for you to make those appropriate decisions. How do you help your clients when it comes to all of this?
Well, we walk through a lot of this. So in the Healthiest Healthy community, which is where I deal with the most number of people because of the members, I do a live coaching every week, and it's a different subject. And so we talk a lot about stress and mitigating stress and anxiety. And so really when we work through these fundamentals, these control what you can control, worry when you have to worry, breath work. I lead a live breath work on Zoom actually every Friday. And anyone, by the way, who's listening, who DMs me on Instagram or on Facebook, Samantha Harris TV, I can just mention that this is where you heard me, and you can have complimentary access to the breath work. It's a breath work and meditation. It's
make sure that's in the show notes for everybody to take advantage of.
Oh, perfect. No, thank you. It's sort of my way I just like giving back and connecting with women. And men are welcome too. I right now it's currently mostly women, but really being able to have some of those tools, because especially with breath work, this is something that a lot of people, I know I struggled with trying to figure out, well, I know how to breathe. Oh gosh, I really don't know how to breathe. Right. So, and there's a lot of different techniques as well, and finding what works best for you. And that's the other thing. You have to figure out what works for you, because what's right for someone isn't always right for everyone.
Right. Sure. Breath work is important. And I do breath work just about every single day. Oh boy, am I going to get hit in the office tomorrow for saying that, or whenever we release this next week, because they're going to make fun of me. I grew up in northern New Jersey. We don't do that in North Jersey, but it's important. It's important to do. It's important. Listen, we all get into this. We all start studying and looking into, neurotoxins and stress and inflammation. When something happens to us, what Samantha and I want you to do is not get to that particular point where your body has just fallen apart so much. And you have that. I had a heart attack when I was 37 years old.
Wow.
Stress. Wow. Talk about McDonald's, talk about whatever burger it was. It was, just going from office to office. I was a hot shot back then in the chiropractic community. 3 offices, different states. No. You can do that as long as you can handle that. But I wasn't equipped to handle that when things were changing with healthcare and so forth. It was, I was eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I was going to fast food restaurants, Samantha, eating all of those omega-6 fatty acids, creating that inflammatory response that's going on. And it really became, a problem. My triglycerides were 1,227. So we have this shared health. Yeah.
I didn't know they could go that high. Oh my gosh.
Well, the cardiologist is a friend of mine, and he just looked at me and he said, "You're going to die." He goes, "Not many people survive this with these numbers. Not many people survive cancer." So it goes back to what we were saying. You've got to make these positive lifestyle changes in order for you to be healthy, because if you're not, it just whatever. And I'm in agreement with you. I'm not anti-medication. Listen, if you need to take meds, that's fine. You also need to keep healthy. You also need to take, certain vitamins and minerals you're deficient in. You want to eat a healthy diet and so forth. It sounds like you were on a carnivore diet for such a long time, eating all of that stuff growing up in Minnesota. It's all meat.
Right.
So, it becomes a situation like that. So it's very important. What else did you do to help yourself out during this time?
So, really also being able to rid toxic relationships, toxic friendships, or put up sort of not barriers, but more limits to the relationships that were dragging you down, right? There's always that friend or that parent at school who leaves you with your shoulders at your ears, and you're stressed out after the conversation, or you feel less than, or you can't keep up. And this, by the way, this doesn't have to be someone you even know. This could simply be social media right now at this point in time, when we're scrolling social media and we are following someone who, we just want their life. Remember, that's a snapshot, if it's even a true snapshot of what their life is.
Right.
And you're not seeing the full picture. And so one thing is to delete any social media accounts that leave you feeling less than or feeling stressed after been looking at them. Putting up sort of borders or parameters around relationships that you cannot cut out, right? There are certain friendships or family relationships you're not going to just completely cut off, but can you put boundaries up? Are there boundaries that you can start to put up?
Because that just adds to the stress.
Exactly. And that is a huge, also the power of saying no, which, I'm a people pleaser. I still like to say yes to a lot of things. And now I realize too, that when we can delegate and we can say no, we start to take a little bit more of our life back and put ourselves back on the to-do list, because self-care is the other, probably one of the biggest changes that I made, which is making sure that my exercise is a priority. It's an appointment in my calendar, just like anything else in the day. And as much as I might get to the end of the day and say, my gosh, I didn't get through tasks 11 through 18, but you know what? I got my workout in. And someone else might look at my schedule and say, oh, well, Samantha, I see exactly. You're not starting your real work until about 11 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. Well, I said, well, guess what? I need to get my kids up for school. I need to do breath work. I need to do my infrared sauna. I need to get my exercise in. I need to make my smoothie. So I thankfully, because I don't work in the crazy rat race of television anymore, I control my own schedule, and all of the work I do starts at a certain time. And there are certain days I do something at, a 9 o'clock appointment, but for the most part, I start my day mostly after 11 o'clock. So I can do all of the other things. It's also taking care of the household and all the other things I need to do in the morning hours. And that works well for me, but it took, I'm 48, almost 49. So it's taken a while to get it going, but I finally figured it out.
You have to take care of yourself. You have to have a little self-esteem. You have to have a little self-care. You need to have a little self-love. That's what I give my patients. That's what I tell them, because that's important, because you're not going to make these positive lifestyle changes unless you have that type of an attitude with yourself. And that's extremely important. Now,
yes. And I wanted to point out to one thing, because I realize as I say, well, I don't start my day to 11 o'clock. I clearly understand too that I had a job where I had to be sometimes in the makeup chair at 5 in the morning, 4:30 in the morning even, right? But exercise still was a priority. So if that meant I had an hour lunch break, then on that hour lunch break, I wasn't sitting down eating lunch somewhere. I was eating on the go later so that I could get in my workout. And I was walking the stairs in the parking garage, or I was on a walk outside, or doing something, yoga in my office, something that I could do to move my body every single day, which is key, because the moment we stop moving, our body says, I guess you don't need that energy. I'm just going to shut down.
And that's when you start gaining weight. That's when you start getting poor health. And that's when things start to happen. So if you were to give the listeners your top 3 positive lifestyle changes to help them out, what would you say they are?
All right. Number 1, breathe right, breathe often, and breathe deeply. Number 2, fill your plate at least half full of veggies at every single meal. Most of us don't get enough phytonutrients or enough fiber, and that's a great way to start. It also will crowd out all the junk that you're eating. And the third is to look at your beauty or skincare routine and change up one product that covers the biggest surface area on your body. Just one to start.
That's perfect. I love that. So how can people contact you? We're almost done here. Believe me, it goes quick when I do these podcasts.
They're so
I wish I
fun.
could, I wish I could talk for hours on end. And some podcasts do that, but I don't know. You kind of lose interest after it's an hour and a half, and you're just losing interest.
Absolutely.
Where can people contact you? Where can they find you?
So the best is following me on Instagram or Facebook, but Instagram is where I'm really the most active. And both are Samantha Harris TV, like television, Samantha Harris TV. And then you can also check out yourhealthiesthealthy.com to learn about Your Healthiest Healthy community. And that's where every week I do a live coaching, a live workout, a live breath work, and I bring in a live guest expert like JJ Virgin, like Joel Furman, David Perlmutter, all the gurus in the health and wellness space. They've all come on, and they all come on actually again and again, which is so fantastic. And I look forward to hopefully welcoming you as a member of the community or on one of my retreats.
What do I need to do to become a member of the community? And I am there. So we both know JJ. JJ, and I just joined the mastermind, so I'm very excited about that. And I'll be talking with JJ soon. I have to make an appointment with her and so forth. So that's exciting. And tell us about the book. Where can we get the book?
Your Healthiest Healthy is the book. It's available anywhere books are sold. And if you guys can't find it for any reason, DM me because I got a bunch of them in my garage. I'll send you an autographed copy.
I was just going to say, if you send an autographed copy to somebody, is that feasible, right?
Yeah. I'm sure we could work that out.
It's a beautiful thing. Listen, Samantha, thank you very much for being on the podcast today. Awesome conversation. A lot of important information for all of our listeners. Please share this with family, friends, coworkers, neighbors, anybody, because these are what I call clinical pearls that are important to help put you onto a positive lifestyle change in order to remain healthy. Samantha, it is an honor and a pleasure to meet you. Thank you very much for being on today.
It's been great. Thanks, everybody.
So everybody, take care. Follow Samantha, contact her, get the book, Live Your Best Health, live your best life, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you, Samantha.
Thanks.